Hello, my name is Matt Chester, and I run Chester Energy and Policy, an independent consulting firm focused on the worlds of energy, utilities, and sustainability. And today I'm bringing to you the first in a series of leadership interviews that I'm going to be doing with some of the top voices in these areas, where we're going to try to learn from them, share their insights, and overall just elevate the conversation. So, whether that's through opportunities to elevate innovative solutions, new ways of thinking, modernizing our systems, there really is so much to talk and think about. And among the most critical ways to do so, of course, is by seeking out and talking to the smartest people in the room, getting a deep dive into their thoughts and perspectives. And that's what we're going to do here today. So I'm joined by Michael Drake, the Vice President of Engineering at Metron Farnier, a smart water meter company that's not only increasing accuracy, but expanding capabilities of water meters beyond what you can imagine. And they are getting recognized for their work with the IoT Solutions World Congress recently naming them as a top 3 energy and utility solution at their conference last month, right next to global giants like Saudi Aramco. So, Mike, first of all, congratulations. Making it to the top 3 had to be an amazing feeling, and I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me. And yeah, it was absolutely a great opportunity. I've worked and attended a lot of different trade shows over the years, and been fortunate to be part of some teams that have managed to get on stage and win a few awards. But certainly a first for Metron, and I think we're an up and comer in the space, and I'm really excited about the technology that we can bring to bear against a lot of the issues that we have in the U.S. right now. We're largely North American focused, and the technology stack, both from the meter all the way to the back end, as well as the data analytics, I think is best in class, and being able to contribute to solving problems like the severe drought that we face in the U.S. Southwest has been really rewarding.
Wonderful. And yeah, let's step back a bit, and I'd love to give you the chance to tell us a little bit more about Metron Farnier, so our viewers who maybe haven't heard of you get to know more about what you guys do, and again, what led to this award and your overall success that you're seeing.
Sure. Yeah. So the company's been around 25, 30 years. Obviously seen a lot of changes over that time. Always been involved in water and metering in some way. Have done downhole. We're located in Boulder, Colorado. Colorado, Wyoming, local areas has been big in sort of oil and gas. And so, done some stuff with downhole. But, I'd say the last 15 to 20 years has really been focused on AMR, AMI, and water metering specifically. Our CEO is one of the original founders. There's a ton of folks that have been here for 15, 20, 25 years, which pretty unheard of in this day and age. So, I think the company's got a great culture. The technology really has, sort of evolved over time, and we've been really fortunate with supply chain. I think our engineering team did an amazing job scrambling to keep, from going line down, and where a lot of our competitors were having 40, 50, 60-week lead times on orders. We were able to keep shipping product, and the back end piece of it, I think we're out in front quite a ways. One example is closest competitor right now can take 15-minute interval snapshots and still get to that 20 years of battery life, which is the goal for these meters and the electronic registers. We're at 1 minute, right? So what that enables you to see in sort of the data analytics side is, we can differentiate, irrigation zones and sinks turning on and different appliances in the home. And that gives you the ability to sort of differentiate indoor and outdoor use, where maybe you can't do that with a 15-minute or 1 hour window of consumption. You can see that in sort of the 1 minute analytics, and I think that's really powerful as people are starting now to look at how do we differentiate, and we're going to put limits on what you can use indoor, and trying to do maybe like with some of the legislation in California, do away completely with outdoor. Being able to enforce that without having to send somebody to drive around in sort of the traditional way, pretty powerful, and you're not having to use a second meter, which nobody likes to have their lawn tore up. So getting that with a single meter solution, I think is pretty powerful.
Absolutely, thanks for that. And you mentioned earlier the ability to kind of help with issues like droughts that we're seeing becoming more common. So I'd love if you could tell us more about what are the key problems that are driving you and your team. Is it just water conservation for the sake of droughts, or what other impacts are you hoping to have with these technologies?
Yeah, I think that historically, obviously the focus was on revenue collection, and there's a lot of money, resource, energy, chemical that goes into producing clean water in the United States. We don't really have any sort of, by and large, there's not a lot of sort of gray water or differentiation of wastewater. So everything that we're using, whether it's to water lawns, to drink inside, is treated water. That's certainly a whole, but just the reduction side of it, conservation side, I think is really powerful. As I mentioned, California is bringing to bear legislation that will, hopefully dramatically reduce the consumption that is occurring on the Colorado River right now. I'm not sure if folks are familiar with it, but state of Colorado has probably the most complex water law in the United States. I mean, it's who's in phase and who's got majority ownership of a certain share based on when it's in rotation and seniority, and all that stuff is kind of playing out in the West right now, where you have 6, 7, 8 states that are laying claim to and really need water from the Colorado River, which is increasingly going dry. I'm sure everybody's seen the reservoirs, Vegas, Arizona are down significantly to levels that may not come back. I think I remember reading a story about I think it was the Fresno Valley, where the floor of the earth is actually dropped something like 40 feet because the water table has sunk so significantly. And those are resources that we're probably not going to get back, right? So I mean, it's great to see this most recent snowstorm in the Southwest, but I don't think that's probably going to solve it. So being able to quickly, with the technology, detect a leak, get that information out to the consumer where they can do something about it. Being able to, on the enforcement side for the utilities, see when somebody is watering when they shouldn't be, or, even the consumers, I think a lot of times they don't actually, I don't know if it's with malice, but it's, maybe just ignorance at times. And we're getting ready to release a consumer facing mobile app that will give the user the ability to see, here's when based on my address, when I'm supposed to be watering, and tell them when they're, out of phase or in violation. And so, trying to get people to do it the right way, but also giving the utility the ability to, really enforce that, I think is cool. We're also, another side of the business for us is sub-metering. So, whether that's things like mobile home parks, apartments, strip malls, places where there's maybe a single large master meter that comes into the facility, but then it's used across inside in different ways. Certainly rubs has been the way that people have kind of done it in the past, or just breaking it down. But if you think of like maybe a strip mall, microbreweries in Colorado, obviously kind of a big thing. Certainly a microbrewery is going to use a heck of a lot more water than a hair salon, as an example. So being able to be a little more fair with how that's I guess charged out to the tenants is a big piece of it. And again, a lot of times they don't know what they're using. It's just a situation where what gets measured gets corrected, sort of thing, and trying to get that data into the hands of the right people that can work on the conservation side is pretty important.
Absolutely. And I can always appreciate connecting what you're doing to microbreweries, but you're also clearly very, very mission driven. So, I'm curious if you can, peel back the curtain on what's the secret sauce of it all in terms of, how do your solutions, how does your application ecosystem create new opportunities? How is it innovative compared with the status quo or even your market competitors?
Yeah, again, I think the 1 minute analytics is extraordinarily powerful. I think we're starting to get out in front of folks a little bit on the machine learning side as well. Algorithms by and large historically for things like leak, right? You sort of know volume, time, and flow rate. So there's not a lot of magic there, but there is magic in, okay, instead of a hard and fast rule that says above this for this long at this rate, that's going to be a leak. What does the actual usage look like for that particular account or that particular meter? So I think some of those things where you're trying to, trying to eliminate the false positives, essentially, right? On something like that, because what we certainly see with users and utilities is they wear down over time for those false positives. And so the accuracy and only alerting on an actual problem are also starting to get into some high water use cases like evaporative cooling towers. Thousands and thousands of those all around the country, often only maintained on roughly a monthly basis, and you're really trying to get the right amount of water reuse out of those as much as you can. So if you've got a problem where you're draining too fast on the blowdown side, you're constantly making that up. That's a waste of water. In fact, our technology alerted one of our customers to that, and they went and fixed an issue where a conductivity sensor, excuse me, was not behaving correctly, and so basically it was a one-to-one with makeup and blowdown, and that was costing them 6,000 gallons a day of water, right? And so that notification led them to go investigate the problem. And not only is that, obviously from the conservation side, it's great, but the way that those folks get charged is, obviously the consumption, but they're charged for the wastewater side of it as well. And so that can be very, very significant savings over time. And I think that's a cool use of the technology that was fairly easy for us to get to, but that it shows a lot of the power of the conservation side as well.
Sure, sure. And so the natural kind of line of questioning I have is, this is all really fascinating what's happening now, but what are you looking forward to? What are the challenges that you're working to overcome now, be they regulatory, market force, technology, and what does, the coming, years look like for Metron Farnier?
Great question. Yeah. So the crystal ball. I think by and large, it's sensor pack for water has always been very limited, right? It's what is it that you're trying to count the water flowing, and I think that model obviously that's kind of table stakes if you're selling into some of these markets, but conservation is sort of diametrically opposed to revenue. And so what are the ways that you can bring additional value, whether that's to the consumer, to the utility, where you incentivize some of that. I think that we're going to see a couple things happen maybe in the water industry. Electric meters have kind of set the precedent for on-demand data. Much easier to do when you can sort of have access to electricity anytime you want. For a battery-powered device, how do we get to more of an event-driven system? I think you'll start to see that started to take over. I think another thing I'm trying to keep my eye on is currently electricity is critical infrastructure for the U.S., but certainly water is it's hard to get by without clean drinking water. Unfortunately, the folks in Ohio struggling with that right now. So what does that mean? What does the sensor pack need to look like to accommodate that? What's the right sort of market timing and window for that? And then there's supply chain ramifications to that as well, obviously, with some of the geopolitical tensions in the world. Where do we need to be thinking about sourcing material from? And so I think a lot to consider. I think the technology is going to continue to rapidly advance toward machine learning. And how do we really give the most value out of the data that we can get out of that sensor pack in the hands of people that can do something with it?
Yeah, it definitely sounds like enough to keep you busy, and I'm sure people watching this will be curious to see where it goes. So thanks for, like I said, peering into the crystal ball there.
You bet.
Yeah, and I also understand that through the past few years specifically, you've been working with Saviant Consulting and their team, helping you to bring smart solutions to the market. So can you give us a little peek into what that association has looked like and how that collaboration has helped you as an organization get to this next level?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say Metron started as a, very prototypical hardware company. We made meter bodies, measurers, and, out of brass, and then, very simple registers, and that's all moved to electronics now, but was mechanical at one point that sat on top. And so, Mark Shamley, who's pretty involved in the water world and has been with the company a lot of years, and it was kind of his brainchild maybe 9, 10 years ago to sort of try to start to look at what you could do with the data beyond just charging the consumer. And so that, hey, we were a hardware company. We didn't necessarily have those resources in-house, and started doing research, and found Saviant. And it's been a great partnership. I've only been on board with the company a little over a year, and I've really appreciated their ability to sort of work with us. They had a lot of the knowledge about the background of the system, how it evolved over time, and as we've grown our engineering team here in Boulder, they've been not only a great resource but a great partner. They were a big part of, obviously, what we were able to achieve in fairly short order. Getting to some adjacent markets, and they make up not an insignificant share of our software team for both back end and UI. So really appreciative to those folks. Have enjoyed the relationship immensely, and looking forward to continuing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just makes me wonder, what do you think is the secret, whenever companies engage with, consultants as partners and collaborators, in your view, what's the key to making that relationship successful, and how have you been able to, like you said, do that in this instance?
Yeah, I mean, they're essentially a captive resource for us. So, it's not a maybe more traditional contractor model where here's what I want you to do, go away and come back when you're done. We work with them every single day. They're part of our stand-ups. Unfortunately, based on where we are in the year, it's almost time to spring forward, so it'll get a little easier on them as far as that 11 and a half hour change gets a little more favorable here next, is it next week, 2 weeks from now? But they are part of our team. They're our engineers. We run the Saviant relationship the same way that we run our internal teams in terms of development methodology, how we plan. It's all one and the same. So Jignesh is sort of my partner over on the Saviant side, and I always tell him, I said, your engineers are my engineers, right? It's a really good working relationship. Every time we have a problem, if it's on the staffing side, it's okay. Are we going to put that in Boulder? Are we going to put that in Pune? I like that partnership in that. I'm not waiting to get additional resource based on, hey, we're busy right now, we can't get you somebody until. Again, they're sort of part and parcel of our team, and like I said, a really important part of what we do.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, thanks for that. And thank you for overall being able to take the time to peel back the curtain with me today. Hopefully we can do this again with you in the future, maybe when there's many more awards and recognitions that come to the great work you and your team are doing that warrant it. But yeah, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. And yeah, with that, that'll conclude our session. So thank you to everyone who's taken the time to listen in, and we'll see you again in a future edition of this leadership interview series from Chester Energy and Policy.